Hello everyone, welcome to the class of organic chemistry. Here we'll be taking structure of proteins part 2nd. We have learnt that proteins exist in three kinds of structures: the primary structure, secondary and tertiary structure. The secondary structure of proteins. Within the long protein chains, there are regions in which the chains are organized into regular structures known as alpha helices and beta pleated sheets. These are secondary structures in proteins. It means the secondary structure of proteins again is classified into two kinds of structures, that is alpha helices and beta pleated sheets. These secondary structures are held together by hydrogen bonds. These form, as shown in the diagram, between one of the lone pairs on an oxygen atom and the hydrogen attached to a nitrogen atom. So the hydrogen bond is formed between the oxygen which is attached to the carbon, that is the carboxylic group carbon, and the hydrogen of nitrogen, the N terminus and the C terminus. Although the hydrogen bonds are always between C double bond O and NH groups, the exact pattern of them is different in an alpha helix and a beta pleated sheet. It is possible to have some much more complicated foldings so that next door chains are actually heading in the same direction. The folded chains are held together by hydrogen bonds involving exactly the same groups as in the alpha helix. So here we see the hydrogen atom is lying between the two carbon and the oxygen and the hydrogen that is of nitrogen terminus and the C terminus. The alpha helix. Now, how do we draw an alpha helix? In an alpha helix, the protein chain is coiled like a loosely coiled spring. The alpha term means that if you look down the length of the spring from the top, right, the coil is happening in a clockwise direction as it goes away from you. So here is the diagram where we have shown the atoms, only those are facing us. So how the alpha helix is held together by hydrogen bonds? This is a very simplified diagram, missing out lots of atoms. First of all, only the atoms on the parts of the coils facing us are shown. And secondly, no attempt whatsoever have been made to get the bond angles right. So they are deliberately drawn, and all of the bonds in the backbone of the chain are as if they lie along the spiral. So it is a clockwise direction that goes in the loosely coiled spring. Notice that all the R groups are sticking out sideways from the main helix. Also note that the regular arrangement of the hydrogen atoms, hydrogen bonds, all the NH groups are pointing upwards and all the C double bond O groups pointing downwards. Each of them is involved in a hydrogen bond. And finally, although each complete turn of the spiral has 3.6 approximately amino acid residues in it. So when we complete a turn of a spiral, there are 3.6 amino acid residues in it. Each turn has 3 complete amino acid residues and 2 atoms from the next one. So it brings to 3.6. That means that each turn is offset from the ones above and below, such that the NH and C double bond O groups are brought in line with each other. Next is the beta pleated sheets. In a beta pleated sheet, the chains are folded so that they lie alongside each other. The diagram shows what is known as an anti-parallel sheet. All that means is that next door chains are heading in opposite directions. So here we see from the arrows you can see one is towards left, and after with a U-turn it takes towards the right end. Again it turns towards left and right. So the sheets are formed anti-parallel sheets. They are not parallel, they are anti-parallel. The tertiary structure of proteins. The tertiary structure of a protein is a description of the way the whole chain, including the secondary structure, folds itself into its final three-dimensional shape. So this is often simplified into models like the following one. For the enzyme dihydrofolate reductase, enzymes are of course based on proteins. So this is the tertiary structure, the final three-dimensional shapes. The model shows the alpha helices in the secondary structure as coils of ribbon. So the alpha helices are as if they are coils of ribbon, and the beta pleated sheets are shown as flat bits of ribbon ending in an arrowhead. The bits of the protein chain, which are just random coils and loops, are shown as bits of string. The color coding in the model, which has been discussed earlier, helps to track way around the structure, going through the spectrum from dark blue to end up at red. The tertiary structure of a protein is held together by interaction between the chains, the R groups. There are several ways this can happen. How is a tertiary structure held? It is held by the interactions between the side chains, the R group, and this happens by ionic interaction. Some amino acids such as aspartic acid and glutamic acid contain an extra COH group. Some amino acids such as lysine contain an extra NH2 group. So some are acidic amino acids, some are basic amino acids. So we can get a transfer of a hydrogen ion from the carboxylic to the NH2 group to form zwitterions, just as in simple amino acids. We could obviously get an ionic bond between the negative and positive group if the chains folded in such a way that they were close to each other. So here we see the ionic bond that is formed between two chains, the R groups, and the zwitterionic structure. The second way in which these occur is the hydrogen bonds. We are not talking about hydrogen bonds between side groups, not between groups actually in the backbone of the chain. So earlier we discussed the bonds, the hydrogen bond which was formed in the groups which actually were held in the backbone of the chain. So these are extra hydrogen bonds in the side groups. Lots of amino acids contain groups in the side chains which have a hydrogen atom attached to either an oxygen or a nitrogen atom. So this is a classic situation where hydrogen bonding can occur. For example, the amino acid serine contains an OH group in the side chain. So we could have a hydrogen bond set up between two serine residues in different parts of a folded chain. So here we can see the OH and the OH of the two different amino acids, two molecules of the same amino acid, and they are forming a hydrogen bond. We could easily imagine similar hydrogen bonding involving OH groups or COH groups or CONH2 groups or NH2 groups in various combinations. Although we could have to be careful to remember that a COH group and an NH2 group would form a zwitterion and produce stronger ionic bonding instead of hydrogen bonds. Van der Waals dispersion forces. Several amino acids have quite large hydrocarbon groups in their side chains. A few examples are shown here. The temporary fluctuating dipoles in one of these groups could induce opposite dipoles in another group or a nearby folded chain. The dispersion forces set up would be enough to hold the folded structure together. So, to form a tertiary structure of a protein, there are ionic interactions, hydrogen bonds, van der Waals dispersion forces which can hold a tertiary structure of a protein. So, the different amino acids here we can see is leucine, isoleucine, phenylalanine, which have large side chains, the hydrocarbon groups. So these are forming a larger group and opposite dipoles in another group on a nearby folded chain. Then sulfur bridges. These can be formed between two cysteine residues. Now cysteine has sulfur atom and this can form sulfur bridge, which has been discussed under primary structure. Wherever you choose to place them doesn't affect how they are formed. So the tertiary structure is held by ionic interactions, hydrogen bond, van der Waals dispersion forces and sulfur bridges. So we have discussed the secondary structure, which has two types again, alpha helixes, beta pleated, which are sheet structures, and tertiary structure. So the forces which hold the tertiary structure of a protein. Thank you.